"You have to come, honey. Grandma really needs you." Her voice over the phone trembled just enough to sound urgent. The kind of urgency that pulls you upright from whatever you're doing. I was halfway through zipping a suitcase in my little Indianapolis flat, sun-splashed summer clothes folded beside me, excited for the family cruise we'd been planning for months. Without a second thought, I answered, "Of course I'll stay." The words left my mouth before I could weigh them. The cruise could wait. Grandma couldn't. I hung up, grabbed my keys, and told myself I was doing the right thing. "My name is Tara Smith. I'm 28, I work at an accounting firm, and I've always been the person my family counted on. The one who organized, who showed up. Sacrifices were my default, so when duty called, I answered." The drive to the hospital was a blur. Traffic lights, the hum of tires, the way your stomach tightens when you're expecting bad news. I expected to be greeted by machines and nurses, by that antiseptic hush that makes everything feel more serious. What I wasn't expecting was an alert on my phone that stopped me cold. It was Emma, my younger sister, and a photo she'd just posted. Smiling faces, sunlight, a champagne toast on the deck of a cruise ship. The caption, "Best vacation ever. Blessed. Family time." I pulled over. My hands shook. There they were, Mom, Dad, Emma, cousins, aunts, all grinning in the salt air. I could see the white rail of the ship, the blur of the ocean, the kind of joy you stage for social media. Not one empty chair, not one thought to check on me, my chest turned over. I called my parents. Straight to voicemail. Emma's account? Blocked within minutes. The sting of it hit sharp. They had used Grandma, the person I'd rushed to be with, as a story, as a prop, to keep me home while they disappeared for a week of sun and cocktails. By the time I reached the hospital, there was no record of Grandma being admitted. The desk clerk looked at me like I'd mistaken the floor. I tried to make sense of it. I tried to dial my mother again. No answer, no explanation. Just the image on Emma's phone glowing in my head. Their smiles, my absence. I drove to Grandma's house on instinct, more from the need to see with my own eyes than from any plan. The porch light was on. I knocked. The door swung open, and there she stood. Lavender perfume, the same warm cardigan she wore to all my childhood birthdays, hair perfectly in place. She looked fine, more than fine, really, mildly confused by the panic in my face. "Tara, sweetheart, what's got you in such a state?" she said, pulling me into a hug that could have smoothed out the world. That hug should have been the end of the story. Instead, it was the beginning. As we sat on her faded sofa, the lamp casting a warm pool of light over her knitting basket, the words tumbled out of me. The cruise, the post, the hospital that didn't exist, the feeling of being intentionally cut out. Grandma listened, and then her face shifted. Not the gentle confusion of a doting elder, something colder, more resolute. She told me a small, awful truth that sat like a stone in my chest. My parents had called her, asking her to pretend she'd been hospitalized if I came by. She'd refused. She hadn't wanted to lie. Why would they do that? I asked, wiping at my cheeks. "Why use you like that?" She sighed, a sound that carried years of watching and waiting. "Sometimes people show you who they are when they think they're clever," she said. "More often they show you when they think they won't get caught. It would have been easier if it were a single, cruel, thoughtless act, a one-off embarrassment. But Grandma had been watching. She'd tracked the little favors and the obvious preference for Emma over me. The times they said no to me but found money for my sister. The way opportunities seemed to land at Emma's feet. She reached for something on her desk and pulled out a manila envelope, thick with papers. "I wasn't going to show you this yet," she said, "but maybe it's time." Inside were bank statements, old emails, photographs, scribbled notes, a paper trail that mapped out a pattern. Line after line, withdrawal after withdrawal, expense after expense. Things that, in isolation, might be explained away. In aggregate, they painted a different picture. Decisions and dollars routed toward Emma's benefit and away from me. My fingers trembled as I thumbed through the pages. The sense of being gaslit, of having my reality questioned my whole life, flared into something too big to ignore. Memories that once felt like family quirks lined up into a pattern of deliberate choices. Grandma looked at me with a steadiness I'd never seen. "I kept these," she said, "because when the time came, I wanted proof. I hoped they'd change, but hope doesn't count for much when someone's willing to take advantage of you." That night, I didn't sleep. I scrolled through the social media posts again, the happy photos now cracked with meaning. One image in particular. Emma in the sundress I'd helped pick out, Mom's diamond necklace glinting at her throat, stuck like a splinter. That necklace had once belonged to Grandma, intended to be shared between her grandchildren. In the photo, it sat on Emma's chest, bright and final. The next morning, my phone buzzed with another message. A group text from a cousin who didn't know I'd been excluded. She'd accidentally sent the cruise photos to the family chat. I watched, stunned, as image after image confirmed what I already felt. My absence had been intentional. The betrayal had a frame and a timestamp. I could have listened to the voice inside that begged me to keep quiet, to let it pass, to avoid the family drama. Instead, something else stirred, a refusal to stay small. I posted the truth, short, sharp, and honest, attaching Emma's cruise photo and the pieces of paper Grandma had shown me. Funny how I was told Grandma was hospitalized so I'd cancel my plans. Funny how the trip was paid for with money meant for all of us, I wrote. Reactions rolled in quickly. Shock, sympathy, messages from relatives who'd long suspected the favoritism, and private notes that landed like small kindnesses. Then my father called. His voice was clipped. "Take that down," he ordered. "You're embarrassing the family." "You lied about Grandma being sick," I said, hearing the incredulity in my own voice. "You used her as an excuse so you could go on vacation without me." "That's not my fault." He changed tactics. Threats, veiled and then blunt. "If you don't remove that post and apologize, you'll regret it." An attempt to intimidate. A last familiar family tactic. Scare the one who speaks up until she shuts up. When I hung up, I felt something else. Not fear for the first time, but curiosity. Cold and sharpening. What were they protecting me from? What stories did they have tucked away? Grandma, as if reading the churn of my thoughts, told me to check my email. There, waiting like a loaded secret, was a scanned trust agreement dated 25 years earlier. It outlined a fund meant to be split equally among the grandchildren when they turned 30. The trust was substantial, numbers so large that my breath hitched. The document included withdrawals, regular purposeful withdrawals, payments for dance lessons, private school tuition, a wedding. My portion of the trust, money that could have been mine for college, for stability, had dwindled under the guise of help and management. Then another message arrived, an email from Uncle Michael. "I can't keep quiet anymore," he wrote. Attached were copies of transactions, annotated with dates and reasons. He confessed regret and shame. He offered. "No," I replied. "Not this time. You're embarrassing this family." "No, Dad. You embarrassed this family. When you lied about Grandma being in the hospital, when you took her money meant for all of us, and used it to exclude me." There was a pause. Then his tone shifted, darker. "If you don't take it down and apologize, you'll regret it." "You don't know what's at stake," I froze. "Are you threatening me?" "I'm warning you. Your mother and I have protected you all these years. We've kept certain things from you. If you want to play this game, fine. But remember, you're not the only one who can tell stories." The call ended, leaving me shaking. Protected me from what? What could they possibly be hiding? I dialed Grandma immediately, panic in my voice. "They're trying to scare me," I said. "Dad said they've been protecting me, but won't say from what." Her silence on the other end made my stomach twist. Finally, she whispered, "Check your email, Tara. It's time you knew everything." My hands trembled as I opened the inbox. Inside was a scanned document, a trust agreement dated 25 years earlier. My maternal grandfather had left behind a fortune, meant to be divided equally among all grandchildren when they turned 30. Over $2 million sat in that fund. But the next pages told the real story. Withdrawals. dozens of them spanning years. Notes in the margins explained exactly where the money went. Emma's private school, Emma's dance lessons, Emma's college tuition, even her wedding. $500,000 gone. My half. My chest hollowed as I whispered, "They've been stealing from me since I was a child." Grandma's voice cracked through the phone, steady but heavy with sorrow. "Your mother convinced the trustee, her brother Michael, to give her early access. She said it was for your benefit. But as you can see, they spent it all on Emma." I barely had time to breathe before another email came through. This one from Uncle Michael himself. "Tara, I can't keep quiet anymore. What they did with the cruise money was the last straw. I've attached documentation of every withdrawal they made from your trust. I'm sorry, I should have stopped them years ago." Attached were pages of proof. Transfers, signatures, dates. And more than just Emma's expenses. There were trips, jewelry, and payments for things that had nothing to do with either of us. My parents had siphoned money for themselves too. The betrayal was staggering. All those nights I'd stayed late at the office. All the debt I'd taken on for college. All the sacrifices I'd made. While my parents stole from me. Dollar by dollar, smile by smile. Grandma's voice was iron now. I gave them the cruise money to test them. To see if they'd finally do right by you. Instead, they exposed themselves. And now, we have proof. My anger hardened into something sharper. Resolve. "Then we fight," I said. "Not just with words this time." "Better than that," Grandma replied. "We'll make sure they never hurt you again." But nothing could have prepared me for the final revelation. The second attachment in her email. Her will, freshly updated. I skimmed the lines and felt my breath catch. Grandma had named me sole heir, including her controlling shares in the family company where my father was CEO. "They're about to learn," she said. Voice steel. "That actions have consequences." I didn't realize it yet, but the battle lines had been drawn. My family wasn't just guilty of betrayal. They were preparing to run, with what was left of my future in their pockets, and I was the only one who could stop them. The next morning, I sat at a cafe in downtown Indianapolis with Uncle Michael. His face looked drawn, eyes shadowed from lack of sleep. He slid a thick folder across the table. "These are copies of every document, every transfer, every theft," he said, his hands trembling slightly. "And Tara, they're planning to run. They've been moving money into offshore accounts. The cruise was a test run. They were checking if their passports would raise any red flags." My blood turned to ice. "They're going to disappear with what's left of my trust fund." He nodded grimly. "Emma's been helping them set it up. Accounts in her name, fake shells. They think they're clever, but they're sloppy. Too many trails. As if to confirm it, my phone buzzed. A text from Emma. "I know what you're doing. You've always been jealous. But you're too late. By the time you figure it out, we'll be gone." I showed the message to Uncle Michael. His face paled. "We have to move now," Grandma answered on the first ring when I called. Her voice was brisk, prepared. "They're at the company right now. Your father's cleaning out his office. Security just called me. Can they stop him?" I asked, already standing. "Better," she replied. "I've already called the police. And the FBI. Tara, listen carefully. You're the majority shareholder now. I filed the transfer this morning. That company is legally yours." I nearly dropped the phone. "They don't know that yet?" "No, and that's our advantage. Get down there before they destroy evidence. This is your chance to stand face to face with them and take back what's yours." By the time I pulled into the parking lot, adrenaline had burned away any lingering doubt. My parents were walking out the doors, arms full of boxes, Emma trailing behind. Their faces froze when they saw me step from my car. "What are you doing here?" my father demanded, his CEO voice sharp, though his eyes betrayed panic. "Funny," I said, keeping my tone calm. "I was about to ask you the same thing, especially since you're removing items from my company without authorization." "Your company?" Emma scoffed. "What are you talking about?" I held up my phone, the documents glowing on the screen. Grandma transferred her controlling shares to me. "As of this morning, I own the majority of this business, which means I want to know exactly what's in those boxes." My mother's face drained of color. Emma's eyes darted between us, panic blooming. And then, flashing lights. Police cars and unmarked FBI vehicles rolled into the lot. Agents stepped out, badges raised. Behind them, Uncle Michael's car pulled in with Grandma in the passenger seat, watching with quiet satisfaction. "You don't understand," my mother pleaded, her voice suddenly fragile. "Everything we did was for this family." "No," I corrected her. "Everything you did was for Emma, and for yourselves. You stole from me, lied to me, and planned to vanish with what was left. That's not family. That's theft." I turned to Emma. "Was the cruise worth it?" Her tears started before she could answer. My father tried to pull her away, but the FBI was already there, intercepting them, seizing the boxes, cataloging evidence. The empire they'd built on manipulation collapsed in a single parking lot confrontation. 3 months later, I sat in Grandma's garden, autumn leaves drifting around us as we shared coffee. The air felt cleaner, lighter. The FBI's investigation had uncovered everything: the embezzlement, the stolen trust fund, the offshore accounts. My parents now faced federal charges and lawsuits from shareholders. Emma had cut a deal, immunity in exchange for testimony. She'd moved away, forced to finally survive without parental backing. Her last message to me had been an apology, but words couldn't stitch wounds this deep. "You know," Grandma said, watching the leaves fall, "your grandfather would be proud. He always said money reveals who people truly are. And you've shown strength." I nodded, thinking of the changes I'd already implemented at the company. Scholarships for employees' children, transparent accounting, systems built on integrity instead of greed. The business was thriving, not in spite of what had happened, but because of it. "I never wanted any of this," I admitted quietly. "I just wanted to be treated fairly." Grandma reached over, squeezing my hand with that same fierce steadiness. "Sometimes life disguises blessings as betrayals. You've turned their cruelty into something good." She was right. Their vacation without me hadn't been the trip of a lifetime. It had been the trigger for their downfall. And the start